When people hear psychology of Gen X, they usually think, oh, that quiet group between the loud boomers and the headline-grabbing millennials. But this isn't just about dates on a timeline. It's about a generation that learned independence before they learned algebra. A generation shaped by silence, uncertainty, and change happening faster than anyone admitted. If you've ever wondered why some people just handle things without talking about it, why they don't overshare, why they seem calm when everything is on fire, this is why. It's strange, isn't it? We constantly analyze boomers. We debate millennials. We scrutinize Gen Z like scientists observing a new life form. But Gen X, they're just there. Born roughly between 1965 and 1980, they're your manager who doesn't panic, your aunt who never posts online, the parent who fixes things instead of complaining about them. And psychologically, they might be the most misunderstood group alive today. Let's rewind. Picture an 8-year-old in 1978. School ends. They walk home, open the front door, and no one's there. Not because something's wrong, because that was normal. Both parents working, no tracking apps, no texting, no cameras, no instant check-ins, just a quiet house. They make their own snack. They finish homework alone. They wait. Millions of kids grew up like that, regularly unsupervised, responsible for themselves long before adulthood officially started. Now think about what that does to a brain. You learn quickly. If something goes wrong, you deal with it. If you mess up, there's no buffer, no gentle processing circle. Consequences arrive immediately. That environment wires you differently. Psychologists call it high contingency learning, where actions and outcomes are tightly connected. No delay, no cushioning. So Gen X developed something almost automatic. They anticipate results before acting. They don't just think about step 1. They think about step 3, sometimes step 5. To younger generations, that can look like pessimism. To them, it's preparation. Let's talk about privacy. They grew up in a world where embarrassment stayed local. If you did something stupid, maybe 10 people knew. And after a week, it was over. There were no permanent digital records, no viral clips, no strangers commenting. So when social media exploded and everyone started broadcasting their lives, to Gen X, that didn't feel exciting. It felt dangerous, not because they don't understand technology, but because they understand exposure. In their worldview, visibility equals vulnerability. That's why many of them observe more than they post. Let's shift to work. Gen X doesn't romanticize careers. They watched their parents get laid off after decades of loyalty. So instead of trusting companies, they trust competence. They don't believe in job security. They believe in being indispensable. Paper routes at dawn, bagging groceries, fast food shifts where you calculated change in your head when machines failed. These weren't internships, they were early exposure to responsibility. Delivering newspapers at 12 meant an entire neighborhood depended on you. That builds something, not entitlement, capability. They may not talk about hustle culture, but they practice quiet mastery. There's also a paradox at the heart of Gen X psychology. They are deeply independent, yet quietly supportive. They rarely ask for help, because asking feels like weakness. But if you need help, they show up. No announcement, no post, no credit. Why? Because as kids, their strongest bonds were with friends, not always parents. They built loyalty horizontally, peer to peer. And that loyalty stuck. Authority is another interesting piece. Gen X doesn't automatically respect titles. They respect skill. If you know what you're doing, they'll follow. If you're incompetent but carry a fancy title, you'll lose them instantly. They grew up watching political scandals, corporate failures, institutional mistakes. They saw authority mishandle crises repeatedly. So they learned, question first, trust later. Economically, they've been hit more than once. Recessions, market crashes, the dot-com collapse, the financial crisis, over and over. So multiple income streams aren't about ambition. They're about insulation because from their experience, nothing lasts forever. And think about how they learned information. Before search engines, answers required effort. Library cards, card catalogs, physical books. Finding one piece of knowledge could take hours. So when they learned something, it mattered. Effort deepens memory. And because they fixed things themselves, bikes, radios, TVs, they developed mechanical intuition. Flip it upside down. Grab a screwdriver. Figure it out. That mindset sticks. Problems are puzzles, not panic. Now they're raising kids in a completely different environment. Constant supervision, instant answers, online visibility. They gave their children what they didn't have, attention. But sometimes they worry, have we removed too much friction? Because friction is what built them. Here's the truth. Gen X might be the last generation that remembers extended boredom, long stretches alone with thoughts. No notifications, no instant entertainment, just imagination, reflection, problem solving. They aren't superior, they're transitional. They grew up as the analog world faded and the digital one emerged. They're the bridge. And bridges don't demand applause. They just hold weight quietly. Maybe that's the most Gen X trait of all. Doing the work, expecting nothing, not needing recognition. If you saw yourself or your parents in this breakdown, hit subscribe. This channel is about understanding the psychology that shapes us. And if you want deeper dives like this, consider joining as a member. Either way, I'm glad you're here. Let's keep climbing.